Tech is dying, not just because jobs are disappearing, but because it isn't fun anymore. Magic is gone, and we need to talk about why. Forget the perks, the free food, or coddled engineers. I'm talking about a feeling that with just a laptop, a few lines of code, and the right people, you could build something incredible.
Steve!
It's like what you feel on a Friday, the rush of knowing something exciting is ahead. In tech, that meant innovation, solving hard problems, and yeah, watching the stock price of your company skyrocket. I mean, what's better than building with your best friends and getting rich along the way? That's what I was promised. That's what I bought into. If you joined tech in 2020 like I did, then you were sold a dream, a false dream. You got a taste of the engineering promised land during your internships, but then things started to change. COVID hit, but that was just the beginning. What happened next revealed cracks in the foundation that had been there all along. The course of tech changed forever, and not just because of remote work. What we're seeing today goes way deeper than that. I can't change the past, but what I can do is give you a real glimpse into today. For those trying to break into tech, stick around. We need to talk about what you're really getting yourself into. And for those already in tech, drop a comment below if what I'm saying resonates with you. It's about time we got real with where the industry is headed.
There's Larry, CEO of Google. Say something, Larry. Hi.
It all started in college, and no, this isn't about better snacks or free trips because trust me, in college, we had nothing. But what we did have was curiosity. We walked into class wide-eyed, learning about the kinds of problems only computers could solve. I remember this lecture from Comp 182 where we learned about min-max flow algorithms, all because of the Cold War and the US trying to disrupt Soviet railway lines. Or how 17th century German soldiers figuring out how to best pack their food bag led to the 0-1 knapsack problem. Even those Zoom backgrounds that we all use to hide our messy rooms, that's just old school computer vision. I actually implemented it for a final project. There was an abundance of problems and we attacked them head on, fueled with passion and energy drinks. And that's where that feeling started, that hackathon feeling. Late nights in common areas, coding, and f***ing around with your friends. And we weren't just living it, we were seeing it everywhere through movies like The Internship and the legendary HBO show Silicon Valley. I thought one day I could be Dinesh.
It's me, Pakistani Denzel.
That's what made tech great. You had the space to dream. And then I got close. In 2017, I interned at Schlumberger, a big oil and gas company. So not a tech company, not sexy work, but still invigorating. I shipped a Python script that helped automate the migration from .NET to .NET Core, essentially Schlumberger's movement to the cloud. And it felt so good to contribute. If my Schlumberger internship was the worst season of Silicon Valley, then the next 2 summers were the best. In 2018, I interned at Microsoft, and that was a movie. They practically invented the modern internship with a very simple formula. Give ambitious young kids a bunch of money, opportunity, and let them fly. I worked on some feature for Outlook encryption, but I don't remember the work. And when I got my return offer, my team's only feedback was please let us know when you're not going to be at your desk, because that entire summer I was never there. And it didn't matter. Tech was flexible. We didn't need remote work to work remotely. If you wanted to work from home, you just did. If you wanted to go home to spend a couple weeks with your family, go. Even interns took time off. Netflix's entire expense policy in the early years was simply do what's in Netflix's best interest. We were treated like adults, and the balance worked. The next summer, I interned at Gusto, a small fintech startup in San Francisco. I was a Kleiner Perkins engineering fellow, and it was my first time at a startup. I built the in-app calendar feature, which still exists to this day on the top nav bar. I also sat next to Kent Beck, the guy who invented extreme programming. Since Gusto didn't have a big budget for intern events, we took matters into our own hands. We planned fancy dinners, amusement park trips, and even fireside chats. The feeling was still there. In fact, I was so bought into this feeling that for my full-time opportunities, I recruited exclusively with startups, even smaller than Gusto. And when I got to Bolt for an on-site interview, yes, back when they would fly you out, I felt that feeling in person. Small team, brick walls, people eating lunch together every day, a boba coffee stipend, just an electric culture. I was in, so much so that I turned down a founding software engineering role at Ramp, just because the opportunity was in New York City. My equity there today would be worth over $10 million. And I did all this just because I wanted to be in person in San Francisco with my coworkers and friends. That's how much this feeling mattered to me. But now it's fading. Some of the reasons are out of our control, but many, if not most of them, feel like tech companies are just doing this to themselves. So let's talk about COVID, power-hungry leadership, Wall Street pressure, and the simple fact that tech isn't winning anymore. The current climate reminds me of the Great Barrier Reef, where I recently went scuba diving. It'll never be what it once was, but we can stop the bleeding. We should stop the bleeding. We need to stop the bleeding. And by the end of my argument, I'm going to tell you why things are looking up, why I'm still in tech, unless you like, comment, and subscribe so I can make content creation my full-time job. And then most importantly, how each one of us can play our part to bring tech culture back to the way it was. So chapter 1, COVID killed the culture. You know that quote from Andy in The Office?
I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them.
Well, that's exactly how I feel about the pre-COVID tech era. It wasn't that remote work wasn't great. It was, but only because I thought it was temporary. Back then, I was excited to work from home, sitting in my pajamas all day, taking meetings from wherever, and sneaking in video game sessions. Plus, I got to spend more time with my parents, which gets increasingly difficult as you get older. But then when I moved to New York City, age 25, and life went back to normal, people on the streets, coworkers in the office, I felt like I had missed something, like I had just teleported and skipped an entire chapter of my life. Being a new grad at a tech company is a unique experience. Where else do you get 6 figures with no responsibility and a still developing frontal lobe? You've got more money than you know what to do with, a pretty chill job, and loads of free time. There's no mortgage, no kids to worry about, so you show up to work, you do your job, and then you have fun. You just fuck around. And that's when you grow. You get to live in some of the best cities in the world: San Francisco, Seattle, New York, Austin. I felt like I missed out on that. Firstly, because I was in my mid-20s and no longer a new grad, and secondly, because tech culture had changed. Everyone was grinding, layoffs were everywhere, hiring freezes left and right. People started caring about optics instead of just having fun and building cool shit. New grads started working 10-hour days, doing as much, if not more, than senior engineers at a company. Performance reviews got stricter, expectations skyrocketed, and people started eating at their desks. That carefree vibe, that feeling was gone. There was no room to mess around anymore. And instead of being excited to come back to the office, people were nostalgic of the days they could work from their bedrooms. That sense of tech community, it only thrives when you have people around you, not in some Zoom meeting. It's hard, if not impossible, to feel that energy when you're sitting by yourself in some random suburb like Sugar Land, Texas. Chapter 2. Cuts to fund budgets. COVID also made it easier for teams to cut budget for team building, and that persisted even after the pandemic ended. It seemed like a smart move at the time, and it made sense. We were just sitting at home, so keep Wall Street happy, cut costs. That team building culture, that excitement, that camaraderie is what made tech different. Making the workplace fun, fostering friendships, created a culture where you wanted to come into work every day. And this was important because when things hit the fan, when there was a Sub-Zero on-call issue, you wanted to help because these weren't just your coworkers, they were your friends. And this wasn't just some company, it was something that mattered to you. And Wall Street, this is also what generated the profits. It was a secret sauce that allowed tech to continue to innovate. When you're excited to come to work, you're more likely to think out of the box, to take risks, to create new things. And it is only when people feel safe to experiment and fail that we are able to dominate. But now, tech companies are predictable and cookie cutter.
What are you gonna fire me? No! I already fired you!
By removing that human element, we turned into exactly what we used to make fun of: bankers. And tech became a 9-to-5, or more like an 8-to-8. No longer was it about innovation and creativity, it was about meeting quota and looking busy on Slack. And with that shift, the tech spirit died. Chapter 3. We aren't winning anymore. Part of the reason it was so easy to invest in culture back then was because we were in the ZIRP era. Zero interest rate policy. And tech was a monopoly. Google was the best search engine, LinkedIn had no competition, and Facebook was the only social network. Money just kept flowing in, and it seemed unlimited, so why not spend it? And when you're winning all the time, it's very easy to create that sports team culture Netflix loves. They always like to say, we're not a family, we're a sports team. But no one questions the coach while they're winning. Instead, we all just say, wow, those tactics are so revolutionary. But when the winning streak ends, that's when the scrutiny starts. Tech stocks were booming, million, billion, trillion, multi-trillion, but then it started to dry out. Zuckerberg recently said on a podcast,
and it's like Steve Jobs invented the iPhone and now they're just kind of sitting on it 20 years later.
But let's be honest, what has Meta done? Meta's still making most of their money from ads on Facebook. Google still makes most of their money from search. We haven't seen anything groundbreaking in years. Snapchat invented stories, Instagram copied it. TikTok came out with short form content, and now every single platform has it. Engineers who used to be creative are now bogged down with bureaucracy. Work feels like a drag, and that energy that made tech fun, that's gone. And so has the innovation. Chapter 4, hiring freezes for new grads. Look, I'm not saying older generations are bad, but fresh blood brings new energy to a culture. Younger people are more willing to take risks. They have that fire, the energy. If you lose your job when you're young, no big deal, you just get another one. As you get older, it's not the same. And if you're on an H-1B visa, then you have to be even more careful. For a long time, the new grad hiring pipeline was the best way to recruit new talent. Companies had to bring out all the bells and whistles to woo the younger folks. But once hiring froze and companies only started to recruit mid to senior level people, the energy faded. Tech companies lost their shine. They just had to be less toxic than their competitors, and that was enough. And when you start to exclude the younger generation, the ones who are always on their phones, who get to decide what is cool and what's not, you see the same stagnation in your product. Tech companies are no longer connecting with an entire demographic, arguably the one that matters the most. Chapter 5, becoming more top-down. Tech companies used to be engineering-driven. Engineers set the roadmap, defined deadlines, and were trusted by everyone, even Wall Street. Having a technical founder was a badge of honor, but now CEOs are starting to feel like CFOs. And I'm not trying to throw shade at finance. Actually, I am. Fuck bankers. They're everything that's wrong with corporate America. Now it just feels like power-hungry executives are trying to squeeze every drop of efficiency from their engineers. They've even started outsourcing work to India to cut costs further. And that's what we should really be scared of, not AI. Deadlines are handed down from people so far removed from the work that they have no idea what's actually realistic. And that's how we end up with tech debt, half-baked products, and frustrated teams. Ads has become the only reliable revenue source, and with that comes even more toxicity. Everyone's more focused on career mobility and what's going to look better on their promotion packet that they've forgotten to build cool shit for the customer. At Google, the joke is if you want to get promoted to staff engineer, simply join one of their new messenger initiatives, wait until the project is sunsetted, and then enjoy your new role, title, and promotion. They even dropped "Don't be evil" from their motto and scaled back the 20% initiative. Back in the day, Google engineers could work on whatever they wanted during 20% of their time. And now, that's a distant memory. The result? Engineers who used to dream big now just close Jira tickets. Projects get approval based on what's going to sound better on the earnings call rather than what customers actually need. The culture has shifted from move fast and break things to move slow and don't get fired. So, can we fix it, or is it too late? The sad reality is we're losing the fun part of tech, which I would say is the secret sauce behind these trillion-dollar companies. At its core, tech was about curiosity, building for fun and solving hard problems just because we could. And companies knew this, they encouraged it. But now the energy is gone, replaced with OKRs, performance reviews, and cost cuts. Tech isn't about exploring anymore, it's about efficiency and margins. Now every project needs a business case and an ROI. The result? Less risk-taking, less innovation, less of that Friday feeling. And this isn't just big tech. Even startups aren't immune. They're just leaner, scrappier versions of big tech, chasing the same VC money and optimizing for the same KPIs. The market has changed, and so has the dream.
To the inconsiderate monster.
Tech today is like the Great Barrier Reef, damaged but not dead. And if we want to bring it back to the way it was, we have to do that. Round up your coworkers for lunch, organize hikes, impromptu game nights, and break out of this toxic new status quo. Help people, even if it doesn't necessarily make you look good. Think about the customer, not metrics, and for God's sake, play some ping pong.